most of you should know, chocolate tempering. Chocolate is a polymorphic fat. Poly meaning many, morphic meaning forms. So there's a lot of ways that those cocoa butter molecules and those crystals can go together. A lot of them not the way we want them to be. But when we get them together correctly, we get the things that we're looking for in chocolate. So we're getting snap, we're getting shine, we're getting release. And all that happens as we form crystals, they crystallize, right? They begin to contract, right? And as they contract, they provide some of those other things. Tomric, we're the North American distributor for Selmy chocolate handling equipment, so clearly I have lots of tempering units at my disposal. See, which way am I going? There's one right there. I have a Selmy one right there that's designed to temper about 10 kilos of chocolate at a time, or 22 pounds, 10 to 12 kilos. But that process, tempering, is the process of warming our chocolate, so taking it from room temperature, where it's solid, warming it to a point where all those cocoa butter molecules break apart, and now they have no structure, and then putting them back together. And we put them back together by moving them and changing the temperature on that. The Selmys that we were just looking at are considered continuous automatic temperers, so they do that all on their own. You input some temperatures that you want to see, you go through the process, and you end up with temper. But we can do that a couple ways, right? So we can do a batch where we take the whole batch up, we cool the whole batch off, right? We'd actually take it below that point where the crystals start to form all sorts of crystals, beta crystals primarily, and then we warm it back up so that we get working chocolate, all right? One of the ways that we can do that is also we can seed, right? So we take a quantity of tempered chocolate, we add it to melted chocolate, we allow those good crystals to propagate or seed into the mass, and then they do that all the way. What we're going to do today is we're going to put chocolate on the marble. So we're going to slab temper, which is a little bit of both, right? So we're going to take a quantity of this chocolate, we're going to cool it down, we're going to form crystals in it. We're then going to add it back to the melted chocolate, and when that's going on, we're in essence breaking the crystals that we don't want to see, right? So if we think about chocolate in a solid state, room temperature is 72 degrees-ish, 16, 72, somewhere in there. My kitchen today is probably about 71. Okay, so chocolate would be crystallized or solid in a block. We've melted it. I've just used the tempering unit as a melter. And right now we've warmed it to about 119 degrees. Okay. So I've melted chocolate. So also folks, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Mike's going to feed those questions to me in my ear, and hopefully we'll answer them in a timely and sufficient fashion. And if we're unable to answer the question today, then we will do our best to get an answer for you either on our Facebook page or on our Instagram feed. Okay? So, I have a bowl of melted chocolate. My chocolate is about 118 degrees or thereabout, right? And I'm going to take about 2/3 of it. And I'm going to put it on the marble. And then we said that we had to do two things, right? We said that we had to move it and we had to cool it. Okay, so the marble right now is at about 69 degrees. So that's going to do the cooling for me. And I'm going to do the moving part. Move it around. So I'm going to talk to Mike in my ear for a second. Mike, any questions? So you can't hear Mike, which I forget sometimes. And Mike's funny because Mike reminds me that I have to ask the questions again, which he usually does. He doesn't have to remind me right now because nobody asked me questions. But what's funny is that Mike talks to me like in his announcer voice, even though he's just talking to me, as though he were like talking to all of you too. So Mike did this whole like, ring announcer guy today. Okay, so you can tell I'm moving the chocolate around, right? I'm trying to keep the chocolate contained, as little mess as possible, right? Trying to bring it back into the center, And really the trick is that you want this all to become a uniform temperature, right? So if I were to like not move it back in the center and I would just slosh it around on the marble, what will happen is that the temperature won't be evenly distributed through the entire mass. Okay? So I'm going to take that, I'm going to move it around again. Also, I want to make sure that I'm trying to get all the chocolate off my tools, right? Because that too, if it changes temperature or it over crystallizes, it won't go back into the mass consistently or neatly. Mike's asking me, why does it have to be marble? We like stone because it holds the temperature really well. It also tends to be not particularly porous. Right? So if we were to put this chocolate on stainless, for example, the temperature of the stainless would change fairly rapidly to the temperature of the chocolate, and the process would take longer. I mean, even after right now, even after this chocolate's been on this marble's still at like 72 degrees. So the temperature has increased, right? But because the rest of the stone is still around 69 degrees, it's keeping that cool temperature fairly well. Okay. So nobody's asked this question, as far as I can read. But what temperature am I looking for here, right? And I'm basically looking for somewhere that will bring us back to, when we bring it back to the mass, right? It will take the entire mass of my chocolate, the chocolate that's in there, to about 89 degrees. Generally, I'm looking for somewhere around 80, based on how much I've moved away. And we're pretty much at that point right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna get this off the marble in a perfect world without making a mess. So I just have a rolling rack or a little rack here that I brought over, and I'm bringing the chocolate. The easiest way to do this is bring the chocolate like into the center, right? So that we're not spending chocolate everywhere. It also means that the spot on the side of the marble where I am getting chocolate is smaller, right? So that when I go to clean it up, it's easier. Did everybody see that, Mike? I can't tell. Like, I've gotten far enough away from the camera that I can no longer see either of them. It does look, yeah, there's a bowl there. So Mike's asking about the differences between milk and dark, right? So even from dark to dark, our temperatures will be a little different, right? Where that crystallization point is different. You know, this chocolate that I'm working with today is the Revere 70 from Blummer, right? So thank you, Rose and the gang at Blummer, for providing the chocolate for this demo today. And you know, the sweet spot on this chocolate that we find is somewhere around like 87, 88 degrees when we do chocolate, when we temper this way, right? So what you can't see now is that I have a little swath of chocolate here on the side of my marble, which I'm going to clean up before I do anything else, or else I'll have chocolate on everything I own for the next few days. I'm just going to do a good job and get that off the side there. I have chocolate here, right, that is setting, right? So I'm going to get that off because that's going to not help me later on with the next project here that we're doing. I'm also going to get off my spatula here, or my scraper here. So I'm going to take that, and I'm now going to combine these two masses, which I don't know how well you can see, but there's some stuff in there that's pretty viscous, and there's some stuff in there that was still not very viscous. It was still at the 119 degrees or 115 degrees, so it wasn't in temper. right? So I'm going to take a quick temperature reading there, and we're at about 90 degrees. So I said we were kind of shooting for like 88, 89 degrees to be in temper, if I remember correctly. And we're going to be right there. Okay, so Mike just asked me why I mixed the two and I didn't put all in the marble. In essence, what we're doing is we're creating, when we take the chocolate down to that 80-degree point, right, we're creating the crystals that we want, the stable crystals, and we're also creating crystals that we don't want, right? So if we have too many crystals, what will happen is we'll get over-crystallization, right? So if we were to put it all on the marble, we'll be in a place where we'll definitely have over-crystallization. That chocolate we saw when it was coming off was kind of thick and sludgy, right? Versus this, that has a working viscosity on it. Because what we've done is we've gotten rid of the crystals that we didn't want by mixing it back in together. So mixing the, the 115, 118 degree chocolate with the chocolate that was about 73 degrees, we solved that problem. Okay. So we're here, okay? And we're in pretty good temper. Normally what we want to do at this point is we want to take a test to see how quickly or how rapidly we're crystallizing, okay? Because I know that the chocolate that I put on the marble was definitely tempered because we saw it sticking on the spatula and on other things. But now that we've mixed it back in with the chocolate that was not crystallized, we want to make sure that we've put enough crystals there. Generally speaking, we only need like less than 5% of crystals in the state that we want. But we're making sure. So I stopped talking because I was reading Mr. Bauer-Waits' message on Facebook, and hey Tom, how you doing? Tom is coming in from Belgium, which he told me that he couldn't pay attention to these because he had to put somebody to bed at this time of the night, so I guess somebody else must be putting somebody to bed, or his daughter is getting to stay up late, and he asked if I'm taking away the Selmy's job. No, but you gotta know how to do this, right Tom? So anyway, all I have is a little piece of parchment paper that I've dipped, and I'll leave it there on the marble, and we'll make sure that it crystallizes. The other thing that I was always taught, not that it's the best way, but chocolate on the spatula and see what it does. We'll find that out. But in theory now, our chocolate's ready to use. Right? So I have a bar mold. That I'm gonna manually fill. And because I ladled it, I have some excess, so all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the excess, I'm gonna put it right back in the bowl. And then that's gonna go in the refrigerator. And I have a box down here. This box is, this cooler below me is set at about 50 degrees or 10 degrees Celsius, which is the temperature that I like to crystallize at, or I like chocolate to set at. If we go too cold, or we go to a conventional refrigerator, sometimes the problem is we'll get moisture and we'll get sugar bloom. And if it's too warm, right, it'll take too long. So this 50-degree box will take a little longer. We'll leave a bar like that in there for 20, 30 minutes, depending on how thick that is. But ultimately, we find that we get a much better result. So the other thing too, I have a 3-dimensional mold. And so I just caught another glimpse. Hi, Ben. Thanks for joining us. Mike, can you see Ben with us? So I have a 3D mold. It's got 2 sides, right? In this case, I haven't done this mold before, and for those of you that were here last Tuesday, you'll know that the first time I do a mold, I'll fill it like 2/3 of the way on one side before I put it together. In this case, I don't have an open bottom of this because it is actually a heart, so it needs to be solid. So hopefully I have enough chocolate in it. So I'm going to flip that around. I give it a little bit of a shake, usually too. Got some mold clips here. Then we'll seal that in place. So the chocolate does not all escape as I am molding it. So I'll give it a shake, and generally I'll leave it on the counter. So it's gonna be tough to see, but that chocolate is no longer moving. It hasn't set completely yet, but it's got shine, and it's not moving down the mold or down the spatula itself. This chocolate's in temper, okay? This is doing the same thing. I don't know if you can see it. It's actually hanging from the bottom from where I pulled it off the table. It's not it's not super over crystallized, which is why it's crystallizing slowly, which is exactly what I want. Especially, I want to be able to work with this as long as I possibly can, right? One of the things too that I find that when we temper this way, right, as we're working through the bowl, right, it starts to set, and our first inclination is we want to stir it, right? We want to shake it around, or we want to, we think that if we can take the liquid stuff from the center, we can take it to the outside and we can get rid of that crystallization. And we do get rid of the crystallization, but what we end up doing also, as well, is that we begin to over-crystallize the chocolate that's in the center of the bowl, right? So what I find is a better way is we can put an item like this on a heat pad. I've got it on just a towel, holding temperature, but if I put this on a heat pad that's at 85 degrees, it's going to prolong the amount of time that it takes to over-crystallize or crystallize at all. Also, we can hit that gently with a heat gun or a hairdryer while we're working with it. Right, so as we see things happening in here, if we can gently warm the chocolate that's getting firm or hard, we're able to actually prevent it from over-crystallizing or setting in the bowl itself, and we're able to use it a little bit longer. So, my heart, we talked about this the other day too, is that I shake, and when I don't hear the chocolate moving around anymore, or I can't feel the chocolate moving around anymore, it can go into my box. And so, into my box it will go, where we'll live for the next 20, 30 minutes until we can unmold it. Which reminds me of a couple things. If you've missed any of our videos, they are available on Facebook, and they're available on our YouTube page. So if you search for Tomric Systems on YouTube, you can find old videos. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to email me directly. And my friend Kyle will put my work email address up here momentarily, I'm sure, because that's how he rolls. He'll put that on, at least one of the places. Also, if you're interested, we have a newsletter that we send out about every couple of weeks right now with stuff that's going on at Tomric, and you can register for that on our webpage. Tomric.com, Tomric.com. That about wraps it up for me today. So it's a little faster than usual, but we did what we were going to do. There weren't a lot of questions, and thanks for joining us. So by the way, now, chocolate, not coming off. We're in temper. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great week. Bye.